The Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case continues to dominate headlines. The Justice Department has petitioned a federal judge to release grand jury transcripts in the case. I sat down with Harvard Law professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz, who once represented Epstein, to get his take on what evidence there actually is and how much of it he thinks we'll ever get to see. Professor, good to have you with us because you've got a bit of an insider look at some of this. Let's separate fact from fiction. You say there was never a client list per se, but there are other names. There's other information. Are they in the grand jury transcripts, and do you think a judge releases that?
I think the judge should release it, but they're not in the grand jury transcripts. They're sealed records by 2 or 3 federal judges in the New York courts. I've seen some of these materials. For example, there is an FBI report of interviews with alleged victims in which at least one of the victims names very important people, and the names have been redacted. I know some of the names from my investigation. For example, George Mitchell, the former senator, Bill Richardson, the former ambassador to the UN, Ehud Barak, the granddaughter of Jacques Cousteau, were all accused. Now, whether any of these people actually did anything wrong, we don't know, because we know there have been many, many false accusations. For example, a woman named Sarah Ransom filed an affidavit, and it's probably in the record, and it's probably been sealed, in which she accused Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Richard Branson of having sex with young people, and she said she had videotapes of this. And then after an investigation, she admitted she made up the whole story, and yet the affidavit still remains in the court record. So we have to be very careful to distinguish true accusation from false accusations. And I suspect the courts will be sensitive to that. They will not want to just produce the names of people who have been falsely accused without also producing information about the people who have falsely accused them. So this is a complex matter.
Yeah, like you said, all of those names out there could be completely innocent of anything, but it's possible that they were mentioned somewhere along the line. So just to be clear, what they've asked for, the Trump administration, those grand jury transcripts, they're separate from other information that you say is sealed. Would that have to be a separate request from someone else in order to get that information you reference?
Yes, definitely. And the information that hasn't been requested is going to be far more informative and far more relevant than the grand jury information. Grand jury information is narrowly tailored by prosecutors only to provide sufficient evidence to result in an indictment. They don't want to put a lot of material in the grand jury because that would then introduce to the defendant. So what's much, much more important is discovery information, depositions, and other kinds of things that came out of the Ghislaine Maxwell case, that came out of other cases that were pending in front of federal judges. And for example, the case involving Prince Andrew, all of that should be revealed as well. And as long as there's nothing redacted about the accuser's lack of credibility, then the public has the right to make its own decision. Just because somebody's name is mentioned doesn't really mean very much.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a good caution. You mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell. She's still got an appeal I'm tracking at the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, you suggest she should be potentially offered congressional immunity to go and testify. Do you think that would happen? And what kind of information would she have that we haven't seen?
She knows everything. She is the Rosetta Stone. She knows everything. She arranged every single trip with everybody. She knows everything. And if she were just given use immunity, she could be compelled to testify. I'm told that she actually would be willing to testify, and there'd be no reason for her to withhold any information. So I don't see any negative in giving her the kind of use immunity that would compel her to testify. So she ought to be summoned in front of a congressional committee.
Well, we'll continue to track her case. Professor, thank you for weighing in and giving us a little bit of an insider look at what you know. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.